So, weirdly enough, I want to talk about cycling this week. And I don't know if you saw, but the Tour of Britain, which is the UK's biggest cycling event, has announced this week that they won't be doing a women's event. They've tried to get the funding, but it's just too difficult. Nobody wants to fund it. They can't find the sponsors. So, shucks, we're just going to give up. They tried crowdfunding and they tried asking around for a sponsor, but there was nothing they could do. And I just resent the notion that there's nothing you could do when what you could do is initially organise an event that has equivalent men's and women's races and look for funding for the whole thing rather than acting like the women's event is some sort of bonus add-on. And it's actually huge. Cycling is one of the worst sports for discrimination against women. You would not expect to go to the Olympics and they're like, oh well, actually we can only fund the men's Olympics this year, or Wimbledon or whatever. Oh, we're only doing the men's bit this year because the women's bit, it's over there, it's a bit later, we haven't really kept our eye on it. It's really, really straightforward how you do these things. And throughout the history, the biggest event globally, of course, is the Tour de France. And for many, many years, there was no women's equivalent. And then a group of women set one up. And you know what happened? The Tour de France complained that they were using their brand name. If you're not running a women's event, I'm sorry, you have to hand your branding over so that anybody who is can do it. And they do now organise a women's event, but it's only a few stages. It's not the whole thing. And there's been a campaign since 2013 called Le Tour Entière, where a bunch of women cyclists have been saying we want to do the whole thing, and we can do the whole thing, and still we're getting it's too hard, it's too difficult. And I know that somebody is going to respond to this and say, oh well, the standard of the competition amongst women, oh, is it good enough, is it this, is it that? The bottom line is that you can't expect the standard to be the same until the challenge is the same and the prize money is the same. Of course people don't work as hard for less money. Of course there isn't, as much enthusiasm around it because people are not able to quit their day job and spend their whole time cycling when the money that they're competing for is trivial and the funding and support for it is simply not there. It's really straightforward. It's not about how can we get more attention for the women's sport. It's about starting from a principle of equality. And until that happens, I think, I'm sorry, the men should show some solidarity and refuse to participate in it until it's done fairly so that there is an equal amount of support for the women who want to do that sport. There we go. That's my rant for this week. Ends rant. Thank you so much for people who do sponsor what's going on with women like me making these videos, because it gives us the opportunity to raise issues like this that you might not even have heard about. And I really appreciate your ongoing support. If you can afford to, please do. And even if you can't, please keep sharing these and letting people know to keep watching and all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.